Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today and welcome to a Fallout 4 news update. Recently, Pete Hines, Bethesda marketing executive, appeared on the Kinda Funny Games cast, and this is a fantastic show. I recommend you guys give it a listen. I'll have a link to the specific podcast with Pete Hines discussing Bethesda and how they've changed so much in the description down below. But what really caught my eye with this article was that it is claiming Fallout 4 is Bethesda's most successful game ever, which I was thinking, does Pete Hines mean sales, or does Pete Hines mean in the terms of reception between both fans and critics? Because I feel like the latter would be a little bit hard to believe. Pete Hines later clarified on Twitter that he was comparing Fallout 4 and Skyrim over the same period of time, and that Fallout has in fact sold more copies than Skyrim. To get some numbers spinning in your head and just processing how much Fallout 4 sold and how quickly it happened, Skyrim, which was released in November of 2011, sold more than 20 million copies as of 2014. Now, it took about 3 years to get to that point, mind you. Fallout 4, which came out in November of 2015, shipped 12 million copies on launch day. Like Pete Hines said, it has now outsold Skyrim, which took a little bit more than a year. So that is some insane success, regardless of your thoughts on the title Fallout 4. That is just absolutely crazy to think of how much it has sold, especially as a single player RPG. And mind you, we have to remember that Skyrim got a boost with the special edition remaster. What also caught my attention in this article was this snippet here. Also during the interview, Hines responded to the critique that Fallout 4 did not do enough to set itself apart from its predecessors. He agreed that the game shares commonalities with Fallout 3, but said the nature of the beast with sequels is the balancing act between preserving the core formula and pushing things forward. Sony's Uncharted series feels the same. Now, I'm not saying what I read day in and day out as a channel who's built themselves off of Fallout is the representation of 20 plus million people. But based off what I consistently read on a day-to-day basis, the critiques about Fallout 4 are that it's not enough like a Fallout 3, that it's not, more importantly, enough like a Fallout New Vegas. And to see that Pete Hines is responding to, quote, criticism that it shares commonalities with Fallout 3, it just doesn't make too much sense to me. It definitely has the Fallout 3 feel in certain ways, and I totally agree with his thoughts on how a sequel is a balancing act between the core and also moving things forward. But the only similarities that come to mind when I look at Fallout 4 and Fallout 3 is good settings, the focus on atmosphere, world building, which Bethesda Game Studios, in my opinion, is usually pretty good at anyway. But those are the only similarities I personally draw, because most things in Fallout 4 were entirely different. You have a new leveling system, you have a new shooting system, there's very few actual individual side quests, and I'm not trying to get on a roll here, but what I'm saying is that it's interesting that he's responding to criticism that it's too similar to Fallout 3 or New Vegas, when that's what people wanted, was more of the Fallout 3, more of the New Vegas, essentially saying that the criticisms boiled down to it wasn't enough like a Fallout game, any Fallout game in particular. I'd really question how much Bethesda is listening, but I think it's impossible for them to not hear Fallout fans. People are trying to make it known that Fallout 4 was a misstep for the Fallout franchise in general, and I agree with that sentiment. What I imagine this part of the interview was really Pete dodging the question and trying to tailor it in a different direction and compare it to the Uncharted series. Finally, Hines offered a high-level tease for what Fallout 4 and Skyrim developer Bethesda Game Studios is going to make next. Whether it's Fallout or Elder Scrolls or whatever they're going to do next, I think their mantra is always, we really got to step up our game, he said. Now, he's saying every time they say this, but I think this time, especially after Fallout 4, after its reception, how fans responded, that Bethesda more than likely has a huge fire under their ass to try to prove people wrong with the next game, which is good because they shouldn't get comfortable in their position. They should always strive to create a better product, which I imagine they do. Bethesda has responded to most criticism with Fallout 4, whether it was the repetitive side quests, voice protagonist, choices about consequence, and I think that is going to get them to really push hard to create something special in their next game, or at least I hope so. Because then again, metrics do decide a lot of how certain games go. Bethesda Game Studios seems to really have the choice of what they do next and how they do it. So fortunately, I think they're free from a lot of the corporate bullshit, but still they're a company, so who knows? They could see that, oh, 20 plus million people picked up Fallout 4, which is more than any other game. Maybe we should continue down that route of how we structure the gameplay and everything. If that's the case, I do fear for the future of the Fallout franchise, but that's a discussion for another day. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this topic in the comments down below. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. The links are, as always, in the description down below. Other than that, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.